let's bring in Jeff Paul, who is live outside the courthouse in Fort Pierce, Florida, with more. Jeff.
Well, yeah, Emily, this third and final day in this series of hearings related to Trump's classified documents case here in Fort Pierce, Florida, just got underway about an hour ago. And as you mentioned, the first portion of court today is sealed. So that means no members of the media, no one from the public allowed inside. But we expect that to change right around 1 o'clock Eastern. That's when we expect Trump's defense team to urge Judge Eileen Cannon to throw out evidence that was taken by the FBI during their search of Mar-a-Lago. They're arguing that it was done in an unlawful way. Their basis for it, in part, stems from Trump's team saying that there was some crucial information that was not given to the judge who signed off on that search warrant that could have been helpful to Trump's defense. Now, in the previous days, we've seen motions from Trump's legal team to get the case thrown out on the basis that special counsel was done and was brought on in an unlawful way. And just yesterday, prosecutors pushed for a limited gag order saying that Trump had said things that put both law enforcement and FBI witnesses at risk. Now, Judge Cannon hasn't ruled from the bench on any of these matters just yet, so we're expecting written orders in the coming days. But Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley says even though Trump appointed Judge Cannon, he doesn't see her leaning one side to the other with her decisions.
Well, Canon has been hit with vicious attacks, and she has ruled actually for and against both sides. It's been very fair here.
So for now, as this sealed portion continues, we'll be outside the courtroom trying to track any sort of developments. But in about less than an hour, we'll be back in the courtroom, hopefully with some updates later this afternoon. Emily?
Jeff Paul, thank you. Well, now Judge Cannon has become a target of the left. Watch.
It's just simply outrageous. And she makes one outrageous comment after another, one outrageous ruling after another. She is doing everything she can do to play into her critics' view that she is little more than a hack for Donald Trump.
The decisions aren't coming quick enough. She's asking too many other people to come in and give their opinions. It's really playing right into the defense's hand.
Politically biased, bozo, or both?
Boy, it's this like that game show where it's, do you want behind the curtain or the box? So I actually think it's both. There's no question she is inexperienced, and she does not have the tools to handle a case that's this complicated. That's clear. They're always siding with Donald Trump, and it's very, very hard at this point to see her as being anything other than partisan.
Now, the worst thing that could happen to her is that she actually does rule for Trump on this, because that would go to the 11th Circuit. And then I think this, petty partisan prima donna would be put in her place and they would remove her.
Wow, David Webb. So a hack, a bozo, a petty political partisan prima donna. There's a lot of ad hominem attacks on a qualified elite judge that seems to belie a lack of substance in those arguments.
And as a journalist, and I think there are a few people on this couch who qualify, if you ask a question and only two options are the negatives, you're not really being a journalist. This is not new. This is the hyperbole. This is the caricaturing of a judge. Jonathan Turley's comments are well taken. Judge Cannon has ruled pretty much across the board on the fairness of the case, asked questions about what's being presented on both sides. I think anyone who looks at it fairly sees that. What they're trying to do is set up the failure of the case, that they can say this was hacking. By the way, Andrew Weissman, really? You want to talk about somebody who's partisan? Can we list Kaylee? I think you have a little experience with Andrew Weissman back in the Trump days, what his actions were and involvements. So this is not in any way decided or determined to be a fair examination or a question of maybe her judgment on this could be questioned. They're just setting up the ad hominem, to your point.
Such a great point. And Kaylee, taking this a step further, at the end of the day, the hypocrisy is overwhelming, because these are people who say that Trump somehow is a threat to democracy, and yet these are people that are literally threatening the judge. And when the standard for the gag order, for example, is significant, imminent, and foreseeable danger, and words are violence, what do you call those?
Right. These are credible arguments that the Trump team is posing in court. A gag order. Should you gag a presidential candidate that is the nominee of a party that represents half the country? Does the text of the Constitution allow for a high-ranking executive officer who's not confirmed through Congress? These are questions that should be asked. These are questions other people have asked, and they should be answered. And Judge Canon is methodically asking questions, engaging with the arguments. And by the way, as Jonathan Turley pointed out, she's ruled against both parties. She's ruled against the prosecution and the defense. This is a judge who was confirmed in a bipartisan manner. She got the vote of Patrick Leahy. She got the vote of, I believe it was Dianne Feinstein. Yes, this is a credible person with a great life story that is doing her job. And yet she's called where partisan, petty, prima donna, wacko, crazy, right-wing, outlandish, ridiculous, nutty, loony. No. She's a credible woman, and she deserves to be respected. And I thought we didn't attack judges. Bring in Judge Merchan. Oh, wait, but we do if it's going against us.
Well, to that point, Harris, I mean, it's really disheartening to watch, and also, again, underscores the hypocrisy of the left. Because apparently, if you're Judge Alito, you can be attacked. If you're Judge Clarence Thomas, you can be attacked. If you're Judge Canon, but somehow they're missing the whole substance, which I guess they don't like her ruling on both sides. They're not seeing the facts here.
Well, they don't want a judge who's actually going to look at this from a fresh perspective and follow the justice and the legal system's rules on this. This is a novel case. This is another novel case against Donald Trump. Let's just call it what it is. There's a theme here. And I was almost looking for Robert De Niro to show up outside the courthouse this morning, because when the left is not getting what it wants from the Justice Department, and I guess this goes all the way to the White House and the president's campaign team, they cue the people who can come out and pound the drums louder against the right. That's what they're doing against Judge Eileen Cannon. I don't even know if some of these people keep up with the story enough to know what she's doing in the courtroom. Heck, I don't even know. I'm listening to Andrew Weissman. Yeah. Is that his name? He sounded like he was searching for his words in a way he could be most toxic. Like, just spit the truth, it'll sell itself. But he didn't do that. And so it feels very personal from a group of people, liberal media, who said, you know, you can't pick on women. They fall to the woman card, the race card. Yet they'll pick on who they need to pick on if their side isn't doing. Look, when she said, I want to hear more in this fight about the gag order, we're not just going to reflexively put a gag order on this president. I mean, the fight was picked. The left lost its mind, and this is proof of that. I wish they were classier at it, but they're not.
Such a great point. And Jerry, this shaping matters. We are in an election year, so the shaping matters, especially as debates and the like are being held on certain platforms. We need to have objectivity that Americans can trust. It's the furthest thing we're seeing from the left in some of these networks.
Absolutely right. And it's journalists here who are doing it for the most part. And that's what's so disturbing to me. It's one thing to have a representative of the campaign on saying whatever it is the candidate believes. It's an entirely other thing to have the journalists themselves calling out, in this case, a judge. And you said it, Harris. They called her wacky, loony, nutty. These are adjectives you use to bring women down, right? This is something you would say
They make us
about
hysterical.
a woman.
They make us look crazy.
Absolutely right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.